Good morning. My name is Jay Rosenthal, the Managing Director of Business of Cannabis. Welcome to the Cannabis Daily Show for Friday, March 25th, 2022. Since 2017, Business of Cannabis has highlighted the companies, brands, people, and trends driving the cannabis industry. We look to do that here every day. We'd love to hear from you in the comments, and always feel free to visit us at businessofcannabis.com, as well as through all of our social channels, including Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you're watching this on YouTube, or even if you're not, we encourage you to go there and subscribe to our channel. Coming up on March 30th, that's next week, we'll have our online retail series with our partners at Leafly and Vitrina Group. We'll be talking about how to prepare your cannabis retail store or dispensary for 420. In September, we're going to have a two-day bonanza in New York for Business of Cannabis New York. More on that in the information below. For today's stories, more is more. Federal legalization bill is headed for a vote next week in the House of Representatives. Delta 8 threatens future of licensed cannabis cultivators in Michigan. Weed Work, a former co-working startup exec, joins LeafLink, and how to legalize cannabis without contravening international drug laws from our partners in Europe. For our first story, the U.S. House of Representatives will vote on the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, which is called MORE, next week, which would federally legalize cannabis. This in a story from Marijuana Moment. Here are some of the details. This will be the second time the House has voted on the bill, which is sponsored by House Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler. It was then held up in the Senate, not surprisingly, which was Republican-controlled at the time. And on Thursday, the House Rules Committee announced it would hear the bill on Monday, which is the last step before a vote on the floor. Advancing this legislation to deschedule marijuana and to help those individuals and communities that have borne the brunt of America's failed prohibition is pivotal. This from NORML's political director, Morgan Fox, in a statement. More than two-thirds of Americans support repealing the federal prohibition of marijuana, and they deserve to know where our elected officials stand on this issue. And then it would have to go to the Senate. For our second story, because it's cheaper to produce cannabis, the rise of Delta 8 THC could pose a threat to newly licensed cannabis cultivators in Michigan and beyond. This is from a story in MSN. Well, what is Delta 8? For those that may not know, which is very few in our audience, it's an impairing cannabinoid that's derived from hemp through a chemical process. It's often called diet THC because it can be less impairing than Delta 9, which is naturally occurring in cannabis. But because of the Farm Bill, Delta 8 products are believed by many to be federally legal and are found in gas stations and convenience stores across the U.S. Now, some states have outlawed it, and the FDA has issued warnings about using the products. It's an issue that almost every state cannabis regulator is thinking about. This from Jillian Schauer, the executive director of the Cannabis Regulators Association. Quote, it's presenting a lot of challenges to protecting public health and consumer safety and also protecting existing state cannabis markets. For our third story, Artie Minson, the former president and CEO of the notorious WeWork co-working startup, is joining cannabis B2B marketplace and logistics company LeafLink as its new president and chief operating officer. This is in a story in Axios. Minson was hired at WeWork in 2015 in an effort to rein in founder and CEO Adam Neumann, who was known for his lavish spending and, let's just say, odd habits. Previously, Minson was an executive at AOL and Time Warner Cable. When Neumann was ousted, Minson took over the CEO role in 2019 before stepping down in 2020. At LeafLink, which is a marketplace connecting retailers and brands with also logistics support, with more than 10,000 partners, Minson will report to co-founder and CEO Ryan G. Smith and will manage operations, sales, marketing, customer service, and more, according to a press release. Now, great timing. Earlier this week, we had the vice president of logistics at LeafLink on BofC Live as part of our Cannabis Daily show. You can check that out on YouTube or on our website at businessofcannabis.com. Finally, a new paper by a researcher and author in Europe outlines how legalized adult use cannabis without contravening drug laws. This is in a story in Business Can. When Canada began adult use sales in 2018, it was found to have violated the 1961 Single Convention on Narcotics and Drugs, which is the CSND. Uruguay, too, has been threatened with sanctions by the International Narcotics Control Board for implementing its cannabis legalization. There are two conditions where federal legalization can potentially comply with international laws. If there are measures to reduce abuse and harm from cannabis, that's the first. And the second, if there are efforts to report sales of medical and scientific to the International Narcotics Control Board, something Malta recently included in its legalization. So, some interesting strategies there. Check out Business Can for that. Those are the stories we're watching today. Join 12,000 others and catch all those stories and more in your inbox every day at 7 a.m. Eastern with our Cannabis Daily newsletter. And for those keeping track, that was episode 54 of the Cannabis Daily Show. We thank you for joining us here on YouTube or wherever you caught the program, and we ask you to please do subscribe, and we will see you all on Monday.